The Timberwolves have filled their final two-way spot. We'll talk about Jules Bernard, what he brings to the table, plus what's changed the most about the Timberwolves offense this year. Next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to us by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Timberwolves game day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, we will talk Wolves Clippers toward the end, but I want to start with the Timberwolves' newest addition. They did fill their final two-way slot on Wednesday. We'll talk about the new addition, Jules Bernard. He should be a semi-familiar face if you paid attention to the Iowa Wolves in the G League, and also if you paid attention in training camp and preseason as well. We saw some Jules Bernard, so we'll talk about him here off the top. Then I want to get into what's changed the most about the Timberwolves offense. There's a lot that can be made about certainly turnover issues, I guess regression and playmaking from Anthony Edwards. So a lot to dig into there. And there's some interesting numbers when we look at the pace the Wolves are playing, their passes, their overall assist rate as a team. A couple interesting things to unpack there that I want to get into. So we'll do all that here in just a little bit. First, though, big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right. Let's talk about Jules Bernard first. So if you missed it, the Timberwolves had a two-way slot available because about a week ago they waived Johnny Juzang, who, of course, had reached his max number of games. I think it's 50 games. You can be elevated and be active for the NBA roster. It's not how many games you play in, it's how many games you're active for. So like right now, Rocco Zikarsky most nights is listed as out due to a two-way contract. He's just inactive, not available to play. Juzang had reached the limit, and the Timberwolves decided they did not want to fill their final roster spot by converting him to a standard contract, which, of course, is what they did last year with Bones Highland. It's what they did a couple years ago with Luka Garza. They did it with Jalen Clark as well. He was on a two-way deal that they elevated to a standard contract, but they opted not to do it with Johnny Juzang. Although Chris Finch did have some nice things to say about Juzang on his way out, and that hopefully he even said, maybe he finds his way back here at some point. But the Wolves decided they needed something different with that last roster spot. Well, it's still open. They haven't filled it, and they could still sign somebody on the buyout market here in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, they had one final two-way contract slot to fill. They were one of 7 teams coming into the day on Thursday with an open contract, an open two-way contract. And the deadline to fill your last two-way deal is March 4th. So like a week from today-ish, I think, is March 4th. So the Wolves had to add somebody in the next week. They decided to bring in Jules Bernard. And also, to be clear, two-way players are not available in the playoffs, but they would have the option to elevate one of them to a standard deal before the last day of the regular season. So as of right now, it's Rocco Zikarsky, it's Jules Bernard, and it is, I'm now blanking on who the third two-way guy is on the Timberwolves roster, but they have 3 two-way guys who are available to be elevated to the standard roster if they so choose to do that. Enrique Freeman, that's the other one. So if they wanted to convert one of those guys, they can. My guess is they want to leave the spot open in case there's somebody that's bought out, or maybe they have a beat on somebody who they think will be bought out in the next couple of weeks that they then could sign to a vet minimum contract to fill their roster and leave Freeman, Zikarsky, and Bernard on two-way deals for the balance of the season. Or if that doesn't happen, they could choose to elevate one of those 3 guys so that they're available for the playoffs. Let's talk about Jules Bernard. If the name sounds familiar, he did spend training camp with the Timberwolves on an Exhibit 10 contract, which what that is, quick refresher, it's a little bit like a preferred walk-on. They get a signing bonus and then a guaranteed bonus if they stay with the G League team for a certain amount of time. And so Bernard was on an Exhibit 10 deal with the Wolves. He ended up going to the Iowa Wolves of the G League. And so the way the G League stats, it's weird. If you look at like Basketball Reference, which is generally the best place to get like regular stats, but they split the G League stats from tip-off tournament to regular season. He played 13 games of the tip-off tournament and was good, but the regular season stats across 23 games are really good for Jules Bernard this season. We'll get into that in a second, but overall who he is as a player, he profiles as a wing, really kind of a combo guard, although he's 6'6", right? So he's not a point guard, but he's a big guard, kind of average sized wing who's a little over 6 feet tall. He's got a 6'7" wingspan, which is nice. So, good overall size. And I would actually say overall, he's just well-rounded, solid size, solid athleticism, a good scorer, a good-ish shooter. Doesn't have a great first step, but he's athletic enough to hurt you in the open floor. He can work as a cutter. He's an okay defender. I would say his weak spots are he doesn't do anything great. He just does kind of everything pretty well. Nothing like really pops. And he's not like a great defender, in part because he's not a great athlete. He's a good athlete. I think some of the lateral quickness on both sides of the ball on offense and on defense is a little bit limited, but he's a talented scorer. He knows how to score with the ball in his hands. And I think he's a decent facilitator for somebody that isn't a point guard. Anyway, if you watch some of his college tape at UCLA, he was a very talented scorer. He could get to his spots. He could read the defense well, and knew what he was attempting to do with the ball in his hands. He didn't shoot the ball all that well in college. His junior season, he shot nearly 40% from three, but then his senior season, he was under 34%. For his career, he was 35%. And he actually didn't score the ball at that high of a level his senior year either. 13 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and just under 2 assists per game. In the G League this season with Iowa, 25 points on 40% outside the arc shooting, 48% on twos, which isn't great, but 40% on threes, which is an outlier for him. He had never been above 34% in the G League season previously. He had a limited kind of cup of coffee with the Washington Wizards 2 seasons ago. Very limited. How many total minutes across 19 games did he play? He played in 19 games, 149 minutes, shot 38% from three. So the three-point shooting, college to the G League to the NBA, has hovered between the 34 to 38% until this year, where he was right at 40% in the G League. And across 23 games, that's not a minuscule sample size. He shot nearly 200 threes, 188 threes, and was 39.9%. So if that's real, if the shooting is legit, almost 40%, and the scoring instincts do exist, if you watch some of his college tape, he understands how to read the defense. He understands how to find a seam. Once he doesn't have a great first step, but if he does get a step on you, if he gets the ball as a cutter, if he reads the defense correctly and finds himself at the lane to the basket, he's a pretty good finisher. He's got good touch. He's always been a good free throw shooter, which of course is a good indicator when it comes to like future scoring ability. He was 77% from the line in college, 82% as a senior from the line. And so far in the G League, across 59 career G League games, he's 86% from the line. The touch around the rim is nice as well. Again, I go back to just calling him a well-rounded combo guard, really kind of a big combo guard. He's really more of a wing, but I think his best position is probably as a big 2 guard in the NBA, and he can initiate a little bit as well. The assist rates are not all that impressive, although actually this year in the G League is 23.5% for somebody who's not a primary creator. Obviously, he had the ball in his hands a lot with the Iowa Wolves. 28% usage rate, doesn't turn it over. Actually, the turnover rate kind of went in the wrong direction a little bit as the season wore on in the G League. So again, I would say he's well-rounded. He's not likely to be like a frontline rotation type guy, but there's a lot to be said for him as a bigger body, solid version of somebody like a Bones Highland who can help you if you need him in a pinch. And, he's obviously pretty far down the depth chart, given everything else the Wolves have on the wing and in the backcourt. Right now, it's the front court where they need more help. As we saw on Sunday when both Reid and Rudy Gobert missed the game, and the Wolves were extremely thin in the front court and had to play Jaden McDaniels at the 5 and Ant at the 4. But they went ahead and added a wing, a big combo guard who can do a little bit of everything. And I'm intrigued to see if he gets any opportunity. Obviously, I wouldn't expect that. I don't think the Wolves are expecting it. But the Wolves will get a closer look at him after he was in the G League. And obviously, him being in the organization, him being in the program and playing at Iowa this year, the coaching staff has clearly seen him and likes what they've seen and obviously sees him behind the scenes in practices, et cetera, and knows what they're getting out of Jules Bernard. So interesting addition for the Timberwolves. Still have that standard roster spot open here in the next couple of weeks as the buyout market kind of starts to wind down. Deadlines upcoming for guys to sign so that they're eligible for the playoffs. But the first box has been checked, and that is that open 2-way slot with the signing of Jules Bernard. All right, I want to talk about the Timberwolves offense. Some of the things that have really stuck out to me this season, and here, of course, especially I should say of late, with some of the turnover issues and the, I would say, lack of ball movement on the offensive end of the floor. The numbers are a little bit conflicted, and I want to kind of dig in on that and explain, as I unpacked the numbers, the advanced metrics, and some of the passing numbers and assist rates and stuff for both individuals and the team this year. A couple of interesting things stood out that I want to dig in on. We'll do that here next. We'll close the show by talking a little bit of, I want to talk title odds over at FanDuel, and then we'll also talk about the Wolves-Clippers matchup for tonight's game. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at 5 Hour Energy. It is time for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti, craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. I'm going to go with, I guess, tried and true berry. I just really like the berry 5 Hour Energy. It's big, bold berry flavor, slightly sweet, but a very fruity flavor, classic mixed berry flavor with notes of raspberry and blackberry. There's smooth sweetness to the flavor without tasting overly sugary. There's also a light tartness that keeps it balanced. If I had a second pick, I'd go peach mango. And actually, third, I'm going to go 3 deep here. Strawberry watermelon would be my number 3. Peach mango gives you that ripe peach flavor on the first sip, and the mango adds tropical depth and sweetness to the strawberry watermelon. I would call this maybe a sleeper pick. Sweet and tart at the same time. It tastes a little bit like candy, which I'm a big fan of that. That's my sleeper pick in the 5 Hour Energy Draft. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. There's a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned as well. So keep an eye on that. But those are my top 2, and then also my sleeper pick. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. Again, 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by our friends at Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple, and that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app, pick your upcoming NBA game. The Wolves are back in town, I think early next week. You can get your tickets locked in within minutes. You'll see the all-in price up front, which is perhaps the best feature. You don't have to worry about surprise fees at checkout like you do in some other places. You can also see the view from your seat before buying, and that'll help make your decision easy based on where you want to sit. Also, pick using zone deals. You can choose your section. Game Time will pick your seats, and you save. Great last-minute options as well. NBA tickets show up at solid prices all the way up until tip-off. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. Reminder, you can get Locked On Wolves ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access as well. You can join the chat over at Discord, talking all things Wolves basketball. Join at lockedonwolves.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes. Again, lockedonwolves.supercast.com. Okay, I want to dig in on the Timberwolves offense. And what spurred this on, well, specifically, the freshest thing in my memory, of course, is the Portland game, which the Wolves won by 3 points on Tuesday night. And the recent lack of playmaking from Anthony Edwards. Ant's assist rate is down this year. And even more recently, we can point to just the assist turnover, which, like, for the season, Ant actually hasn't turned the ball over all that much, especially for a guy who's got the ball in his hands so much. A big reason for that is he's just not passing it as much, right? He's calling his number more often. The more you pass the ball, a lot of times the higher your assist rate is, the higher that turnover rate inches up as well, because you're putting yourself more at risk. Well, we're now going on, 4 straight games where Anthony Edwards has had either more or the same number of turnovers as assists. So combine the last 4 games, and Anthony Edwards has 10 assists and 17 turnovers over the Timberwolves' last 4 games. They're 3-1 in those games. The blowout loss to Philly on Sunday is the only loss amongst the group. But that has been an issue. And a lot of that is Anthony Edwards going into ISO mode, and he's only passing when he's forced to pass, versus a little while ago, maybe when he missed those games due to injury in January, I think it was, he had been getting off the ball quicker in possessions, making quicker decisions, and the whole offense was flowing better. And a lot of times he'd get the ball back for a catch and shoot 3-point opportunity, or he'd get it back and would take advantage of the defense with a sloppy closeout, would take the ball to the basket. But now he's the primary and secondary option in the half court. And that, I think, is the biggest problem. But along with that overall, like we could talk about Anthony Edwards' assist rate, which I guess just to put a bow on that piece of it. Ant's assist rate is his lowest since his second season in the league. So his lowest in 5 seasons. His age 20 season back in 21-22, he had an assist rate over 19% each of the last 3 years. And right now he's at 17% assist rate. Last season, he was 21%. The year before that, he was almost 25% assist rate. Turnover rate is the lowest in his career. His usage rate is the second highest that he's had in his career. So that reinforces everything I just said. He's passing the ball less. Overall, as a team, though, I thought this was interesting. And I don't know that it says that much, because I like the numbers, like I said earlier, they're a little bit conflicting. But look at individual players on the team and their assist rates. Last season, the Timberwolves had 5 guys who played rotation minutes. Well, I'll call it 4. We'll take out Rob Dillingham because he wasn't a regular rotation member. They had 4 guys in their rotation, Minnesota did, that had an assist rate of over 20%. Dante DiVincenzo, Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, and Mike Conley all played rotation minutes for the better part of the season last year and had personal individual assist rates of over 20%. This season, the Wolves have 1 guy, and that's Julius Randle. DiVincenzo and Edwards are below 20%. Conley was when he was on the team. Well, I guess he's on the team again when he was part of the rotation. Like that's it. They had 4 guys over 20% assist rate last year individually. This year, only 1 guy above 20% assist rate. I dug into like number of passes. You can do that at NBA.com. Look at the tracking data. And the Wolves are actually passing the ball more this season than they did last year. More passes per game. It's like 5 or 6 more passes per game. And you know, the assist numbers aren't dramatically different. Like there's some of the things that are maybe a little bit lower. Like what's the stat that I looked at? Assist points created, assist to pass percentage. Those numbers are down slightly, but again, the passes are up, and you know, I don't think that really tells the story. So I dug a bit deeper, and my take on this is because the Timberwolves are playing so much faster, the assist numbers aren't that dramatically different because they're playing at a much faster pace in transition. So there's more passes to be made. There's more possessions, right? There's more possessions to be had. There's more passes to be had because there's more possessions. But in the half court, it hasn't been as effective. So related to transition, this season, Minnesota, according to Synergy, is using possessions in transition 19% of the time. And there's cleaning the glass numbers that are similar. I'll pull those here in a second. 19% of the time they're in transition. That's 12th in the NBA. Last year, they were tied for last in the league at just over 15% of the time in transition, which 4% doesn't sound like a lot. It is, especially when you're talking well over 100 possessions a game, right? That's, 4, 5, 6 possessions a game that they're now playing in transition where they were not last year. They were tied for last in the league last season in frequency of transition, according to Synergy. And this year they are 12th in the NBA. And by the way, I've talked about this before. The effectiveness last year wasn't much worse. It was virtually the same. 1.140 points per possession in transition last year. This year, they're 1.142. So 0.002 of a point per possession, I think that is better this year than last year. So they've virtually always been a good transition team. It's just they did not force the issue last season like they have been this year. The clean the glass numbers are virtually the same. I guess I lost them here, but and it's factored a little bit differently at clean the glass versus Synergy. But all that to say, like, actually, you can look at Basketball Reference, just the pace number. The Wolves were like 24th in pace last year. They're 10th this season in pace. They're playing faster across the board. That means there's more possessions to be had and more points and more easy baskets in transition. And they're doing it at, virtually the same efficiency as they did last year, even slightly better. It's the half-court offense. Well, it's still been good. Like Minnesota's a top 8 offense in the league. And actually right now, including the glass, they're the number 5 offense in the NBA. So they're a top 5 offense. But the half-court offense has been a little bit spottier. It's been a little bit more prone to these bouts of turnovers, the ISO possessions. We could talk about isolation as well. I wasn't going to dig in as much on that today, but the isolation possessions have been somewhat detrimental. As good as the Wolves have been compared to other teams, they just do it so often between Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards. The other reason why the half-court offense has survived, and what makes me a little bit nervous because I'm not sure it's sustainable, is the catch and shoot stuff. Right now, Minnesota catch and shoot is Timberwolves are ending possessions with catch and shoot opportunities 54% of the time and scoring 1.15, or no, I'm sorry, that's last year. Just over 53% of the time and scored 1.164 points per possession on catch and shoot opportunities. That's third in the NBA. 58.2% effective field goal percentage on catch and shoot opportunities. Okay, so hold that thought. They're third in the league in points per possession, catch and shoot, and just over 58% effective field goal percentage. Last season, Minnesota was, hang on, I lost my sorting. Last season, Minnesota was, in terms of points per possession and catch and shoot, 1.15, so seventh in the league, and 57.5% effective field goal percentage. So it's not drastically better, but it's nearly a percentage point better effective field goal percentage. And they're now third in the league in points per possession, catch and shoot opportunities, where they were seventh last year. A lot of that's Jaden McDaniels. He's like 8% better outside the arc. Nas is like, a little over a percentage point better outside the arc. Obviously, you lose Nikhil. Jalen Clark's not as good. He's not playing as much. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. A ton of that improvement is Jaden McDaniels. Dante's virtually the same as he was last year. Ant's virtually the same. So Randle's worse, but not a ton worse than what he was last year, catch and shoot on threes. So my point is the half court has suffered a little bit more. The transition has been better. And that lends itself to some of those turnover issues, suppressing the overall ceiling of the offense. And I realize we're talking about a top 5 unit, but this offense could be even better. And Ant plays into this, the lack of assist rate from Ant, the lack of an individual assist rate across the board. And yes, the lack of a true point guard. That all does matter. And that's, I'm not going to get on a Julius Randle soapbox right now, but that's where Julius Randle comes in. Again, he's the only guy with an assist rate over 20% on the Timberwolves this season. And also he had that last year. So much of the offense runs through Julius Randle. And if he's off, the Wolves offense is off. He is I know we talk about Ant, people nationally talk about Ant as like the point guard of this team. It really is Randle. And the Wolves are going to go how Randle goes, which is a scary proposition. It's also like, if he's on, the Wolves could be virtually unbeatable. I really believe that. He's that dynamic offensively when he puts his mind to it, when he tries defensively. The Wolves are very hard to beat. But the consistency just isn't there. And the overall kind of ball movement of the Timberwolves half-court offense they've survived and improved offensively because of the improvement and the increase in transition opportunities. And then also they're a little bit better catch and shoot, better 3-point percentage. They're right kind of in line, a little better than where they were last year. As long as that's sustained and they keep playing fast, they can survive as a top 5 offense, but they're not going to reach their ceiling if they don't find a way to consistently pass the ball in the half court, find their way to some better shots with ball movement versus just simply relying on transition and then isolation basketball in the half court. All right. I want to hit title odds quick, then we'll talk Wolves Clippers here, tonight's game, to close out the show here today. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I'm talking to you about Indeed, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support this show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, very quickly, I think this is something we'll dig in on here another day in the near future because I think it's kind of absurd, and I don't have enough time to talk about it today because I want to get to the Clippers show or Clippers game preview here for tonight. But looking at NBA title odds over at FanDuel, and ESPN had some stuff posted about title odds, which is what got me thinking about it. And then I went to visit our friends at FanDuel and look at what the odds are for the finals. And I'm not really sure why this is, but the Rockets are a significantly bigger favorite than Minnesota. Right now on FanDuel, and that's what stood out the most to me. It's not the only thing, but on FanDuel there are, let's see, the Wolves are 6, 7, 8, 9. They're 9th in NBA Finals in championship odds. Okay, which just kind of feels low, like on its face, because I would say the Wolves are a top 5 team in the league. Now, part of that is they're in the West. The East teams ahead of them, Cleveland, Boston, Detroit, and the Knicks are all ahead of them. I don't know why Detroit's down at plus 1,300. That seems kind of crazy to me. But Houston's at plus 2,700 and Minnesota's at plus 3,500. So 800 points below the Rockets. And the Lakers are down at plus 5,500, well below Minnesota. So Minnesota's kind of on their own in ninth. You look at what's posted on ESPN, it's a similar story. And I don't understand the Rockets thing. Like, I genuinely don't get it. I know the Rockets are better than the Wolves at the start of the year, but given the Steven Adams injury and like there's no cavalry coming for the Houston Rockets, given the standings right now, Houston's a half game ahead of Minnesota a full game. I guess they won just prior to me recording this. They blew out the Kings on Wednesday night. So the Wolves are a half game behind Houston. Houston's point differential is only a point better than Minnesota's. Like, they're not a dramatically better team, and it's not the best matchup for the Wolves, but they obviously played them well the first game this year when Ant didn't play. I was just shocked at that. It's something we'll keep an eye on. I don't know. At least they're ahead of the Lakers. I don't know, but I feel like Minnesota should be higher than 9th in title odds. So we'll get back to that. Let's talk Wolves Clippers tonight. Important to note on the injury report, John Collins is questionable. Kawhi Leonard is questionable. Collins got hurt. I think it was the Lakers game over the weekend. He fell hard and hurt his head and his neck. So he's questionable. Kawhi Leonard is questionable, although he did play last time out. The Clippers lost to the Magic last time out. Bradley Beal, of course, is still out. And then Darius Garland is still out and has not played for the Clippers. So do not expect, or he is listed as out as of right now. Darius Garland is. So now the Clippers, since playing the Wolves, remember LA blew the Wolves out in that matinee game just following the Dosunmu trade right before the All-Star break. Since then, the Clippers have gone 2-3. They split a pair with the Rockets. They beat the Nuggets by a point and then lost a pair of close games here recently to the Lakers and the Magic. So they're beating and losing to good teams. They've just played a really tough schedule since then. Like, they're 2-3 against essentially playoff teams. You know, the Lakers and Magic are good enough. I would consider them playoff teams. Last time out, they lost by 2 to the Magic. Kawhi had 37. Mathurin had 21 off the bench. Nobody else had more than 14 points for them. They had 4 guys that played at least 20 minutes that scored less than 10 points. There just isn't a whole lot of offensive firepower there with Garland still out, especially if John Collins doesn't play. But it's obviously a difficult matchup for Minnesota. The Wolves were blown out and embarrassed by the Clippers a couple of weeks ago. And, that was a relatively close game until shortly before halftime. The Clippers pulled away in the third quarter. Kawhi had 41, and sure enough, nobody else had more than 15 in that game. So it's the same thing. It's Kawhi and a bunch of dudes that couldn't score. Ant had a terrible game. He had 5 turnovers, 2 assists. That was kind of the start of this recent run of more turnovers than assists for Anthony Edwards over the past few weeks. 23 points on 18 shots, was just 1 of 8 on threes. Thankfully got to the line 10 times. They got 17 and 8 from Julius Randle. It was a bad Gobert game, 10 and 7 with 5 turnovers. A bad Nas game, like just all out of sorts the Wolves were. And that was Dosunmu's debut in a Timberwolves uniform as well. Remember, he was a minus 33 in 25 minutes. The plus minus stuff for Io continues to be kind of crazy. A lot of that, of course, is having to try and be the best perimeter defender on a unit that has both Julius Randle and Nas Reid and not a whole lot of other defense. So anyway, more on that another day. But the Clippers matchup is a somewhat challenging one for the Timberwolves because of the length, the athleticism, the way that the Clippers play. It's not a walk in the park for the Timberwolves. And of course, the Clippers have just straight up been good for the last almost 2 months now. They get to the free throw line a ton. Of course, Kawhi is a big part of that. They're a good shooting team overall from the field. They're 8th in effective field goal percentage. They're up to 12th overall in offense on the season, which includes their terrible start. Of course, they don't have James Harden anymore, but Kawhi is still amazing. The defense is bad. They're across the board bad defensively. They give up a lot of offensive rebounds. That's an opportunity for Minnesota. Gobert was great on the offensive glass against Portland. So that could be big in this game as well. So just, an intriguing matchup. The Wolves need some revenge after what happened last time out against the Clippers, the blowout loss just prior to the All-Star break. So, and of course, this game also in LA. And we'll see if the Wolves can kind of build on what ended up being a relatively close win against Portland the other day. The Clippers as a team do not play fast. They play very, very slow. So the Wolves could get away with just playing faster in this game, running up and down the floor, trying to not allow the Clippers to set their defense, which isn't great anyway. But I think there's a lot of opportunity to run against LA. I mentioned already they're a good shooting team, but they're not going to kill you on the offensive glass at all. Like this isn't, this isn't the same Clippers team that would kill you on the glass here in the semi, it's like, and also Zubats isn't there anymore, right? So like, you don't need to worry about that. Like you used to have to worry about is if it's a Zubats just killing you on the glass. Like that's not a thing. So it's definitely a beatable Clippers team. And the Wolves have to get the bad taste out of their mouth for the last time they faced LA. So if they can play fast, hit their threes, and then not let anybody else. But Kawhi's going to get his 30 plus whatever he scores, but do a good job on everybody else, and you'll be all right. All right, that's all I got today. Of course, the live postcast tonight, Luke and Jack following Wolves Clippers. I'll be back on Friday with the postgame pod. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. A reminder that if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Wolves ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonwolves.supercast.com to join the club. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel right after this episode on audio. Make sure that you jump over to NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA and make it your second listen. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.